It's spring and all the plants are starting to grow beautifully. So what are you able to propagate in this time? It's middle of April. Let's have a look. Hello, I'm Rosie Hardy. This is Rosie Hardy Gardening. If you enjoy our videos, please do subscribe to the channel. Now, a lot of people love to be able to propagate from their own plants. They like to be able to get a few free plants. They like to be able to perhaps donate a few plants to local charities or schools, or even to give a few plants as presents to friends, which is absolutely fine. And it's always a good idea to have a few young plants because you never know when something happens. So say vermin get in and they trash a complete plant and it goes completely. Your dog or your cat decides that, oh, they actually quite like that plant, and then they attack it and you lose it. So you never know what is going to happen. Actually, in my parents' garden, it used to be my father, and Mummy would never let him anywhere near the borders because she'd go in and she'd suddenly find he'd weeded out one of her prized plants, saying, oh, well, it didn't look very good, and took it. She said, well, it shouldn't look like that. So anyway, we'll leave the parental arguments to them, but you know, just be aware sometimes it's a good idea to have a safety net of one or two plants that you really like, just in case of slight emergencies. So at this time of the year, because we are in April, the light levels have got better. The plants are starting to really grow and expand. You've got a lot of stuff that you can actually do, and it's not all the same types of cuttings that are available to do. So you've got things like the hardy chrysanthemum. This one is Clara Curtis, a beautiful thing, and look at this lovely foliage that's coming up. So this is really quite good. And actually, somebody from the propagating team has already been in here and taken some cuttings off this one. But that doesn't mean to say that there isn't more material here. Now, I am just going to show you the types of cuttings you can do of these. I'm not going to stick them today, because we have got so much already going on. I haven't got enough room for me to put a few in. So we will just show you what you can do. So with something like this, a hardy chrysanthemum, so if you had them in the ground, you could dig down to the side of them and you could cheat, and you could take one of your shoots and you could take it and you could produce yourself what is known as an Irish cutting or a cheats cutting, which means that you take it with a little bit of its root stem and white roots. That will easily pot up straight away. Let's see if I can make that show up a bit better. There we go. If we put it on there, you can see what I mean. So that is the top there. That is ready to pot up into a small pot and get growing. So that's one way you can do it. If you don't want to dig your plant up because you have only got a small plant, but you've got quite a lot of growth coming up on the top of it like so, then the other way that you can do it is you can just literally go down and cut to a pair of leaves, and then you can make yourself a nice tip cutting on this by holding the tip, counting down one leaf and cutting below the leaf like so, and removing a bit of the top. So you can do a tip cutting on it as well. If it's still got nice little low growths, which are down here, right down at the bottom, then you can just go down into the soil and do what is known as a basal cutting, which means you're going to take a little bit more of the brown off there. These will be a little bit longer, and again you would just remove all this. So that one is a little bit like a tip cutting, but it's got part of this rooting stem, so it's already got little roots there waiting to go. So there are different ways of doing it off here. Once it's got to this size though, I would say just take tip cuttings because they're lovely, fresh, beautiful growth, and you will get really successful cuttings off those. So that is your chrysanthemum. So we will line all of these up so that we can then do some close-ups later so you can see exactly what we're doing with that. Your Nepetas, well, they're coming up beautifully. This is the time you can go and you can just tidy up any of this dead growth that is in there. So at the same time, you know, if you haven't already done it, so at the same time as going and taking your cuttings, you're just tidying up this growth. If they're in the garden, this growth probably would just die back and it's no problem at all. So once you start with a nice clean cutting like that, this one happens to be a grandiflora type. This one is grandiflora bramdine. This is a really lovely form. It's got lovely dark stems on it, good foliage, and it's great. So this again is going to be tip cuttings. So that one's a little bit taller than the rest. So always go down and take your cutting a little bit longer than you want, and you're taking into the joint like so. That way you don't disturb the plant. You could take 2 or 3 off this one. And again, this is a tip cutting. So you hold the nice tip there, you count down a pair of leaves, you cut below a pair of leaves, and then you take the tops off like so. So you have a tip cutting on the Nepeta, if I can get these down like that. You haven't got anything in there that is really coming through from the ground. Sometimes you can get basal cuttings off these as well, but this is growing out so fast now that majority of your cuttings will be tip cuttings, and it will give it a little prune and then it will come up and be nice and bushy. So that is your Nepeta. So that is quite good. Gaura, or Oenothera as they are now classified. These are overwintered ones which have been in a cold tunnel. They're putting on a lot of growth, and they're doing the 2 types of growth that you get on an Oenothera. They've got the woody old growth, so these were cut to that sort of height, that height there, for overwintering. They have grown from the top of these stems, but they've also done the growth that you want, which is this growth from the bottom, so a true herbaceous plant. So if you've got them growing in the garden, then they're looking a little bit like this. These pieces actually want to be cut off now and taken back to a bud at the base there. They will then grow nicely from the base. You've left yourself with a really good plant which is going to get away and looks good. So tidy up these bottom pieces. That's what you're doing with this. Then you're left with all of this wonderful material here, which you can take cuttings and you can just rip it off. It doesn't matter. You're not going to do anything with the hard stem. Yes, you'll get masses. I'm not actually going to do all of these, but just to show you, you would be able to. And if you really wanted to, you could go down to these very little ones, but they are a little bit weedy. So be good and always take good material. Do not try and take everything. If it looks sick, it looks as though it's not very healthy, ignore it. Take healthy cuttings. So when we're looking at these are a little bit weak and flimsy. Those ones, that one's probably a little bit weak and flimsy there. So is that one. So we'd get rid of those and we'd utilise this lot of material for doing it. And again, these are tip cuttings on these. So we would take the tip like so, and we would then just, again, it's the usual below the first leaf there and off with the top. So that is your Oenothera like that. Now, I'm not going to do anything with that. What you could do, and I just realised this, if you are not very successful with those, you could take what is known as a heel cutting, which means that you pull it directly off the stem like so. You get rid of all of those but lower leaves, and you would then cut off the top. This means that you've got a little bit of slightly older growth there, and you could do that. So that is a heel cutting. It doesn't really come with a true heel like you would with some stuff, but it is just a slightly better. So you can do those if you feel that is an easier way for you to do it. So that is the Oenothera there. Now, if you enjoy propagating or you haven't tried it before, then why not take a look at our propagation course? This you can find in the link below, or we do have a QR code, and it will help you to understand how to do all of the propagation and have real success propagating your own plants. I'm going to leave the sedum to last. Let's do this one. This is Saxifraga. This is Saxifraga Southside seedling. Now this is beautiful. Some of the other plants are putting on their really big rosettes which have got the buds in. When this flowers, it is absolutely divine. It really has sprays of beautiful white flowers with red spots in it. Really superb plant. Now, as you can see, this has got lots and lots of little babies here, and that's exactly what you're going to do. You're going to take these little babies. So you would take them, they're known as pups. So you would take them individually, you would go down, you would cut off the stem there, you would remove any of the brown leaf that is here, like so. And then when you have a look at the stem that is here, it's got old brown pieces here. Now these are old air roots. Now you don't want to make it too long, but you want to just cut at the base. And these are basically basal cuttings. So that is what you would be doing. So you would be able to take all of those as pup cuttings. And that's a really nice, easy one to do. This is quite a good one to do with children as well. They'll really enjoy doing it and taking pieces off and realizing they just stick them in and they'll grow away. So all of these are around about the same length. If you look, all of my cuttings are around about the same length. That means that you are going to be inserting them all to the same depth. So they would all get inserted into the compost to here. So all of that, so half of them below ground, the top growing bit above ground. Now we're going to do something completely different with the Sedum Hylotelephium. It's got a branch out here which is coming out a little bit out of the way. So I'm going to take it from there. And from this branch, I would be able, so you haven't really, if you had that plant in your garden, what you could get 10 or 12 cuttings out of that piece. So you don't need to take the rest of it. If you want to, you could, because you could do what is an early Chelsea chop, which is basically taking all of the tip growth out, making it start more tip growth, and then it won't flop over. This particular Hylotelephium spectabile is iceberg. So this is the white flowering one, which is why it's got much paler green foliage. Now with the Hylotelephiums, we're going to be doing leaf cuttings, and we can do a tip as well. So we can have a look in here. Now the tip is in there. You need a little bit of growth, so you need to get in, and if you lose 1 or 2 leaves, don't worry. So the tip is there. We're not going to need these leaves which are here, because we need to be able to insert it into the compost. So we would be taking off those, and apart from anything else, they would use too much. So now we have a tip cutting from our Hylotelephium, but also we need some leaf cuttings. Now with the leaf cuttings, what you are going to do is you are going to go up through the middle of the stem, right the way up to the top. There we go. We have stem and we have leaves. And then what you can do is you can just cut down. So we've got a new category here. There we go, leaf cuttings. So you literally are cutting where they are. So try and make them slightly longer, and try not to have 2 leaves. So you have a place for 2. So basically you're making them look like that. But this one's a little bit curly, so I think there's a bit of disease on there. So I won't bother with that one. And this one, again, it's got too many per thing. So we'd have a leaf like that. And it's the same thing all the way through with these. So that one, you probably wouldn't need the bottom one. You would take it, just taking it there. All right. I mean, this is one I'm going to show you just because, and I would take that one off there just to give that one a bit more stem. And then we would get rid of that one and we would have that one. So there we go. So we have all of those. So these are quite fun. Again, they get inserted. So these get inserted into the compost in a slightly different way. You would have them, just this as a demonstration, you would have them slightly leaning like so, so that you would insert this bit into the soil, leaving the bud that is in here. What's going to happen is this is going to start rooting here. There is a bud behind where the leaf was, and that's what's going to grow into your plant. This is the food to keep all of this going while it does all of its rooting. So those are great fun. They're really good to do, but that is just a few different types of cuttings and different material that you can take cuttings from now at this time of the year. And all of these can come out of the garden without lifting a plant up. You can leave them all in there and get them all in these types of cuttings. Let's have a little close-up of some of these ones I've done. These are the chrysanthemum. So you have your basal, your tip, your cheeks cutting, your Nepeta tip cutting, Oenothera tip cutting, and heel cutting. You have your Saxifraga here, tip cutting, and then your leaf cuttings here. In March, I took these cuttings, and you can probably go back and see the demonstration I did of these. So we have Artemisia valerifinis, we have, brain's gone, Helianthus Wisley cream, Globularia cordifolia, Viola, and that one was Belmont blue, and then we had Anthemis, which has now become Cota Sauce Hollandaise. All of these have been on the mist unit. I should have got to them a little bit earlier and done a little bit of potting up on them, but they are ready to pot up now. They have beautiful roots on them, as you can see. All of them have got fabulous roots on them. The little alpine is probably the one with the least amount of root, that you'd expect, but you can see that the root structures on all of these is slightly different. There we go. You can see all of the wonderful different root structures on all of these. Lovely roots, different colours, so you get brown. Not as much on the alpine, but I'd expect that. Lots and lots of root on there and lots of root on there as well. So all wonderful looking plants. So now what would you do with all of these? Well, they're ready for potting, but they need a little bit of preparation before you pot them on, because some of them have got a little bit too leggy. Some of them are trying to flower already. So you need to be just tidying them up before you pot them on, and also taking a few more cuttings, which everybody enjoys doing. So I'll use another ones out of here. So the Artemisia is too tall, so you need to be cutting it back. You cut it back by about a half. That's going to give us some cutting material. You can give them a little bit of a root prune. Just get rid of these roots that are here. And then I would always tidy up the scummy bit that's on the top of the plug as well, so that you don't take over any of that. You only get a little bit, and it depends on how long they've been on in their plugs. So that one is now ready to plant in comparison to what is in the tray. So we'll put these, I'll put them side by side, prepped and not prepped, and then you've got a cutting, you've got a tip cutting on there. Then we have the we have got a plug pusher outer in the nursery. So this has started to put on a bud in there. We don't need that. That's going to be no use as a cutting, but what we want to do is make them much shorter. So that is what you would like to see. This is breaking off a little bit. Don't worry about that, because there's plenty there to come. So that is the Helianthemum. I'm going to put them that way so that they are in front and behind. So there was enough. They're still absolutely right for potting on. They need potting on now. So that's what you need to be thinking about. The Globularia doesn't need a huge amount of preparation because it's already naturally branching out, but it does just need a little bit of this top bit taking off there, and then that is ready to go. Absolutely fine. So that one is prepped behind and there. Then you've got your violas. So I'm going to put the one that we haven't prepped there. I'll take this one here. Again, they are just coming out a bit and they are putting on new growth at the bottom. This will give you a nice cutting as well. Remember, the viola cuttings are slightly smaller when you take them naturally. So just take that top bit off there. You're not damaging anything by doing that. And if they've got little squiggly bits at the bottom there, just take those off as well. So that is prepped and ready to go. So what we're basically doing is making it all clean. Now, these, unfortunately, I'm going to take this one from here. These, unfortunately, got a little bit of ants into them. The ants aren't doing any harm. I've already cleared the bottom bit off, but you can see they are too tall. So we will be taking the top piece off the Anthemis, and the Anthemis will, again, it's got quite a lot of root at the bottom. You can give that root a little bit of a root prune, is absolutely fine. Even when they're young plants like this, they're already making so much root. So if you give them a little bit of a root prune, that will help them be so much better and they will grow way better. You've ended up with material whereby you are going to have 3 lots more of cuttings. You may not get a cutting off every single plug, but that doesn't matter. If you get another 3 or 4 cuttings off each one, all of those will be tip cuttings, which is great. You can then put them into plugs and get them going. And then all of these, once you've prepared them like that, are ready for potting up. It's coming up to the middle of April and we've had a false spring. Well, luckily in here inside the Keller house, it remains at the same temperature all the time. Outside has fluctuated right the way up to 22 degrees Celsius, right the way down to -2 degrees. In here, you get a balmy nighttime temperature of around about 5 to 6 degrees, which is ideal. Doesn't mean to say the daytime temperatures haven't gone up in here, but the one good thing with having that early false spring is that we have had some fabulous light levels, and that has really helped with a lot of the propagation. So the propagation, the plants are rooting really well. As you can see, the mist benches are really full. There's a lot of young cutting material in here. There's a lot of tip cuttings, a lot of basal cuttings, all looking fabulous, and it looks great. It's like a tapestry of different colours and shapes of leaves. I just love looking at the propagation benches. This is all the much younger stuff on this bench here, and the bench there, which I'll show you in a moment, is much older. They're all about to be weaned off, so they will come off those benches and join the plants that are on the ground. And you can see we're getting full up in the patches where they are. And also, just to start off, the dahlias, and why this one's in flower we don't know, the dahlias have been brought out. Up they come, and the cuttings have been taken off the dahlias, and there will be more cuttings taken off the dahlias as they produce more growth. So that is really great to see. All of these which are on the ground here are going to be moved next door to their final bit of actually hardening off. This is the first process, then you get the second one, then they are potted and they go straight outside whatever the weather. And at the moment we've gone back into what should be our normal April temperatures, if not a little bit cooler, with very high winds around at the moment. We're waiting because this is the time of year when we have real problems. We get sharp hailstorms and those can really devastate crops. So we're hoping, fingers crossed, we don't get those. Okay, so just let's have a little look at the plants which are a lot more advanced on this bench over here. As you can see, these cuttings are much taller than the little ones we had on that other bench. And these Nepeta are just at the height where now we will graze the tops. So that will pinch out these cuttings and then we get a second load of cuttings off the tops of here. We always do that with plant material like this, which comes up and gives us really good growth. We will take all the tops for cuttings. It then pinches out the plants. 2 jobs done in one go. These will then go on the ground to do the first bit of weeding off, and then they'll go into the colder tunnel where it is not frost free to harden off pre being potted up. And then just to show you more lovely luscious dahlias there, and if we just look at this lot of hardened off material, you can see really good weaned big material ready to go outside. So here we have all of the young plants which have been prepared, ready for potting. They're in here in the cold. You can see by the wind that's blowing through over the top of them, all the movement here. These are getting all of the extremes, just not getting the really harsh light or getting any rain if we do have it. So these are the plugs waiting ready to go. They've had all of their tops cleaned off. They've been pinched back, tidied up. They've also had their bottom roots just pruned so that they are ready when they go into the pots, that they are great and ready. You'll see some marks over there on the Mypex that's empty. That batch has been potted already gone out. This is the next one to go. Then also at the end here, in slightly different, In slightly different containers, we have what are the root cuttings. So the root cuttings are laid on trays like this, and then these are ready, and these will just be knocked out and taken individually. Some of them have produced far more than others, but that's the way of the world with root cuttings. So we've got root cuttings here, normal cuttings over here, and maybe the odd bit of seed raised as well. We'll just take a little look closer of some of the ones to show you how we pinch them out. So these plants here have had their centre taken out. You can see there's been a cut there, so they have been taken out. This is the same, but these are younger plants, but you can still see that the tip has been taken out. This makes them much more bushy, and it's great to see that. And all of these plants here have had their tips taken out. If you want to watch another video of mine, YouTube thinks this one is perfect for you.